All right, welcome back to the To Be Better podcast. We are the Chris's. We do question and answers, emails, and sometimes we simply talk shit. But first, a disclaimer.
We are not professionals.
No.
Everything that we speak on is opinions derived from experiences and outside knowledge we've gotten from other resources.
Mm-hmm.
If you get any value or something we said resonates with you, share this.
Yes, that's how we grow.
And if you're not subscribed, why not?
Yeah, that's a good question.
If you're not subscribed, you're going to miss out on this whole experience. That's the Chris's.
That is the Chris's.
Please leave a comment. Your comments are actually super dope to read. Knowing how that we've impacted you or your relationship, it just helps us continue to do what we're doing, and it shows that what we say works sometimes. And to submit a question or just to email us and say how we've helped or maybe constructive criticism, email us at tobetterco@gmail.com.
The number 2.
The number 2. Emails will be read anonymously on this podcast, unless specified otherwise by the sender. So if you don't want us to put your story out there, tell us that.
Correct.
If you're going to send emails, please be as detailed as possible. If you give us a one-sided email about how your partner is the problem, that is all we will address.
Yeah, you will get a one-sided reply.
Yes. Nobody is perfect. Take accountability. Everybody can grow.
Whew, preach.
And we are giving unbiased, honest opinions. We are not yes men. So if you submit something to us, be prepared for an answer that you might not like getting. But we are going to give you a very honest, outside perspective.
Is that the full disclaimer?
Yeah.
Now to the episode. All right, guys, welcome back. We are doing a follow-up. I don't know how I feel about this thing being in my face like this. We're doing a follow-up to her little Hobbies email. She reached out and sent us another 2-page email. And then we're going to go over some book recommendations because I've been asked a lot about some books. So, do you want to read the original email or do you want to just read this one?
I think I can touch on some key points from the original email.
Okay, let's do that then.
So the newer one is just an elaboration on our current situation.
Right.
So
But there's not a lot I want to talk about on this email, but because I'm invested and so are people who are listening to our podcast, I figured, fuck it, we should just read it.
I mean, I'm definitely invested.
Yeah.
So
It's like days of our lives.
I am just going to touch on like the key points of what's currently going on. So she's currently with a man. Haven't had sex since January.
Okay.
They got together in November of last year.
Okay.
There are times he provides a service.
That was this email.
Yes.
Okay.
This is her previous one.
Okay. That's a problem for me.
I know, that really bothers me. Like, giving me attention shouldn't be a chore to you.
No, I give you attention because I enjoy it.
Right.
It's like an exchange of energy for us.
A massive one, too.
Yeah.
He is 45. She's 44.
Okay.
Answer to your question from earlier. She's been in therapy for the last 20 years with the same therapist. There is an 11-year-old currently in the house, 2 older sons who are grown, 3 older sons who are grown and out of the house. Has a tattoo shop, works there 4 days a week, has other businesses outside of that. He is fibbing about money. Not lying to her like I don't have the money. His finances are kind of just absent.
Okay.
They agreed to him paying a set amount for living there, mortgage, rent,
Right.
whatever they want to call that. And he's been skimping on it. So in the last 3 months, he's only paid $250 for that.
Okay.
But he just spent $200 on Red Bull and a new battery for his Harley.
So I remember that.
Yeah.
In the event that Harley is his main mode of transportation, they are in Texas. You can ride your Harley year round there. So in the event that Harley is his main mode of transportation, putting a battery for it is not a luxury. It's a necessity.
Right. It's
So
like taking care of a car.
Right. It's maintenance. It's one of those things that have to be done. And I didn't think about that the first time we recorded, but I did think about it while I was editing the video. And I was like, oh, that's something I should have said. So
Right. So he does 0 chores, nothing around the house, doesn't do yard work. She's doing everything.
Okay. So the follow-up email said, I listened to the podcast, actually am still listening. I thought the first was so very long that adding any more might scare away a reply, meaning her first email. A few things. The tattoo shop does pay its bills and makes me a decent living. Full disclosure, because I know it's frowned upon in the industry, I did not tattoo when I opened the shop. I had 2 partners that had 30 plus years between them. I had paid a gross amount of money to an established and known shop to apprentice my oldest son, and after 2 years, he was barely making progress. I know he's my son, but trust me when I say I'm his worst nightmare. I pushed my kids. The shop was...
Don't mind me. Just keep going.
Okay. I lost my place now. The shop was open basically for him, and he worked 2 jobs until a little over a year ago when he could support himself fully with tattooing. What's going on over there?
I wanted to see if this moved up at all because it's on my shoulder blades and not my neck. And I'm just uncomfortable. But
Sorry. We'll get you one of these.
okay.
She said, I was influential in Texas reopening tattoo shops after the shutdown. I had made friends all over the world through this and began tattooing myself. It's a small shop, full 5-time artist. I have the lowest percentage of any shop owner I have talked to because the goal was not to make money off the backs of hardworking artists. I make sure the shop is clean, supplies always stocked. There is a huge lounge area and space for them to draw and relax or whatever they need to do to get their jobs done the best they can. I cook or order food in on the weekends. I even paid them every week that we were closed. I was not approved for COVID relief. The other businesses are small, but certainly not Hobbies, as I have had them for over 11 years. I have recently talked to the new guy about starting one I have done research on, but his lack of attention on anything in the beginning squashed that. It's still on my mind, though. So there's a lot in that I want to discuss. So average cut for a tattoo studio is either 50-50 and the studio buys a whole lot of stuff, or 60-40 and the artist buys a whole lot of stuff, or 55-45 and they split. Like, that's a pretty standard thing. I've seen some studios that'll do like a 70-30 or a booth rental. Even at 60-40, say she buys everything but needles, inks, and machines, there's still a lot of money to be made in the tattoo industry.
Right.
I like I said earlier, I'm very intimate with the tattoo industry, and I know that I have seen businesses spend anywhere from $50,000 to $70,000 a year just on marketing if they have multiple artists and Facebook and gimmicky items and giveaways and all that shit. And it's all a tax write-off, but there's a lot of money to be made in the tattoo industry. The fact that you were not an artist when you got into the industry doesn't mean shit to me. I know that that's frowned on by artists because they feel like, oh, you're encroaching on our lifestyle, man. Fuck that.
How, though? Because they're not taking money out of your pocket. They're not even a tattoo artist.
Well, no, she's talking about the other artists in the industry they frown upon it.
I don't understand why, because a person opening a tattoo studio and hiring you is putting money in your pocket.
Right.
It doesn't matter if they're an artist or not.
Yeah. And that's very much a thing. I've worked in studios where the owner was not an artist. And in that scenario, getting him to do things that benefited the shop was difficult because he didn't understand it. But if you're intimate with the industry, you do understand it. And when you run a business like a business, the whole point is to turn a profit. And it doesn't have to be a big one. If you're happy, like letting them make all the money while you keep the doors open, that's fine. But you can retire off that money if you're smart with it. So,
right.
And I got on TikTok today because she commented on one of the videos of yours, I think. Might have been mine. I don't know. Anyways, I found her page and went and looked, and the shop is decent. It's a fairly large shop. It's got a pool table and shit in it. Like,
oh, hell yeah.
There's definitely a wasted space in there. The way that they built it out, they should have done it differently so that they could have housed more artists. More artists means more money, even if you are charging like less of a percentage.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there. I recommend John Taffer's books. If you guys ever watch Bar Rescue, that guy is obnoxious as fuck. But
he's smart.
He is super, super intelligent, and he understands, every square foot is $1. And if you have wasted space in any business that you have that's not generating revenue, that's a loss of income.
Right.
So I would look into that. Anyways, the other thing was the apprenticeship. So I believe that tattoo apprenticeship programs are a scam 99.9% of the time. You will find studios like the one that I'm affiliated with, that does not charge for apprenticeships. If you have somebody that's looking to get an apprenticeship and you've got a portfolio, you've got a strong art portfolio, nobody wants to see you scratching out of your house. So don't go in there with a tattoo portfolio. Go in there with an art portfolio, not digital, preferably not digital, because we can learn a lot by the way you work on paper.
Right.
But if you go into a tattoo studio and you say, I'm looking for an apprenticeship, and they're like, it's anywhere from $3,000 to $10,000, don't do that. Unless you're getting in with a really big name artist and you can have proof that he has turned out apprentices or she has turned out apprentices. because it is very common in this industry for an artist to draw up a contract, take your money, and within 6 months let you go or not teach you anything, and then you quit. So for him to be there for 2 years and not learning anything does not blow my mind at all. It's fairly fucking common in this industry, and it would be very easy for you to go in there and be like, hey, how many apprentices have you guys turned out? Because if you have a studio that's turned out 15 apprentices and they're not paying for their apprenticeships, this is where you want to learn, not down the road where they're going to charge you $5,000 and then eventually just take your shit and tell you to get out.
Right.
So apprenticeships need to be researched a little bit more.
Before you keep reading, I want to say good on her. Like, I fucking love the fact that she opened a studio and then became a tattoo artist. Like, the tattoo industry is such a male saturated.
It was. It absolutely was. It's not like it was when I
Right.
in the 90s when I was a part of all of that. It was very different than what it is now.
Yeah.
And I mean, you want an apprenticeship. You're fixing to start doing this again. So, and it's not because, of money. It's because you've wanted to be a tattoo artist your entire life, and now you have the ability to do it. But like,
Yeah, I actually started the apprenticeship months ago.
Right.
But things happened and
fucking the hurricane happened.
yeah. And I want to clarify. So she brought up the little hobbies, saying her businesses aren't little hobbies. I want to clarify that's not what we were calling it.
No,
we were infuriated
because he called
that
it
somebody
that.
in your
Right.
past said it was your little hobbies, and that's absolutely disgusting to say to somebody who's building something for themselves, especially from someone who isn't on their level.
Right. And I've said it before. I don't know if I said it in that podcast or not, or in that question and answer, but I know that only 7% of the people that want to own a business actually try. And out of the 7%, only 2% make it. And out of the 2%, only 1% of them are actually successful.
Right.
So if you have multiple businesses that are generating revenue, you are an entrepreneur. I don't like the term. I prefer small business owner, but you're fucking doing the thing. And every single revenue stream that you have that's not the same is how you retire. And if you're doing things right with your taxes and you're not hiding money and you're really doing things like that, when you are ready to let go, you sell those businesses on a projected estimate of what they're going to make. You know what I mean? That's you're out. Also, and I'm only going to get into this now because we're talking about money. If you don't have a Roth IRA, you need to go get a money guy and set up a Roth IRA. I know that you're 44 years old. The retirement age in Florida is 59 and a half. But if you were to go in and do the full $6,000 a year every year until you retire, you may not make it a millionaire, but you'll definitely walk away with $500,000 tax-free money that you can live off of when you retire. And I only know that I'm saying that now because I read this email thoroughly before we got there. Do you have anything else before I jump on? All right. The reason for the other job is I go in right after I drop off my youngest at school, and I work till 3. It involves cooking, which, if I'm honest, would be my life's dream to be a chef, but it takes up the morning that I usually spend either goofing off, spending money, or sleeping, none of which are productive to my mental health. This job is also paying for my oldest daughter's wedding. She has a degree and is currently working on her second master's. Paying for a wedding is the least I can do for her. The man's parents are supposed to pay for the wedding, not the woman's, traditionally. So for all you men out there who have little girls, if you're starting a college fund, you need to start a fucking wedding fund too, because you are the one that's supposed to be paying for that. Also, speaking of saving money, everyone needs to read The Richest Man in Babylon. It talks about a 10% savings. If you start the moment you join the workforce and put 10% of everything that you make away until you retire, you will retire a multimillionaire because you've saved 10% of everything you make. When you think about it, it's $10 for every 100. It's really not that much money to just squirrel away. Right. The hard thing is not spending it when time gets tight or whatever. The kid that I babysit right after school is a favor to a friend, but also pretty much pays my grocery bill. All of that said, there is an end goal. I would like to own my home outright and be completely debt-free by the time I'm 50 so I can start to enjoy life. I have a tendency to do better physically and mentally when I do not have a lot of downtime. I fucking get that. People tell me I'm a restless soul because I can't sit still. I always have to be doing something.
Right.
She said trauma response at its finest. When I divorced, I left it all. I paid off the bills, the bank, and just said, take it. I wanted no one to ever say I had something that was not mine, which everyone thought I was just a stay-at-home mom with a hobby. I discovered the DS lifestyle in the first stages of my second marriage. I always did the little things that I thought showed I respected him and that he was loved and cared for. Things probably didn't start going downhill until after our son was born, and I found out that the bills I thought I was paying, or he was paying, his mother took care of those. Not providing the money, but physically paying with his money because she had always done that.
Wait, so he's giving mommy his money to pay his own bill.
Right. This goes on and on, but because this was her ex-husband or ex whatever, there's no real point in reading all of this because it's not prevalent to her current lifestyle. It does say on here, though, that it was a hormone issue and that he was taking pellets to patches to gel to injections. In my opinion, injections are the only ones that really are effective in all of that. The rest of that is kind of like a Band-Aid where injections actually make changes. He would work a few months and then things would look up, and then he would get tired of keeping up with the blood work and the doctor visits. He told me that after the divorce that he knew the second we were done. He had been arguing all day, and when supper time came, I called everyone to the table, helped the kids get their plates, sat down to take care of the smallest in the high chair without making his plate. He got up and went to the bedroom and did not eat. It was the only time in almost 15 years that I had not made his plate. If we were together after all those years, that's all he thought of me. So on the hormone thing, I'm going to say it again, summitrejuvenationcenters.com. My buddy Scott owns that business. He's very, very knowledgeable in all of this. And if you have hormone issues, get your blood work done. I understand that going that route, it can cost a little bit more to get your blood panel done, but there are much cheaper ways to do it. And it's not hard. You got to get it done once a year, every 6 months, so twice a year. It's not a big deal to get your blood work done. And then if you have somebody like you to do the injection, it's super easy. You don't have to go to the doctors. You just get your blood panel done, and they do everything over the internet.
Right.
The bottom part of this, I take your plate away at times, right? And like, it's well established that you bring my food and my plate and take my plate away. That's always a thing. If you finish eating before me, which is rare because I eat super fast because of my past, if I finish my food and I'm like, are you done? Chances are I'm going to finish your bowl.
Yeah.
Because I do that. I'm not throwing food away.
Right.
But I'm going to take the plate away if I'm done before you, like, or after you. I mean, I'm not going to, like, there's just no reason for that. So the idea that she didn't make his plate one night while they were arguing or whatever the case may be, and he chose not to eat dinner.
Right. Like, how childish.
That is bro, stand in the corner until you fix your attitude. When you fix your attitude, come back out and apologize, and we can have a conversation about why you didn't get your plate. I would have treated him like he was a 6-year-old kid. I have a problem with that. All right. I don't know why she mentioned the DS thing in the beginning of that, because it didn't sound like there was anything in that paragraph the first time I read it that had anything to do with a dom sub lifestyle. I don't know if that was just her relating to us or whatever, but I would also like to point out that the dom sub lifestyle with a traditional value marriage works very well because you kind of already have those roles, but it's not a necessity. I was going to say necessary thing, a necessity, right? Okay. I don't know if I'm attracting men like this or if I'm doing something that changes them. There's nothing that you can do to change anyone. That's a decision that they make if they change. She says, my therapist assures me that that this is not the case. I still think that the way I show love is akin to mothering. A bigger side note about the current man, when he was 15. Okay, this is not really relevant to anyone's life either, but he did time. He was in prison for 15 years. The reason of it is not really relevant to you guys, so I'm skipping that. She said the first marriage failed quite quickly, and everyone comments that she was just no good. I have had talks with him and asked him if he thought maybe he overlooked red flags with her because he had the huge prison flag, and he agrees yes. So for that, I know that I make some concessions to certain behaviors, and when I've called him on them, he is willing and does try to resolve or correct things. There is a lot to be said there. The reason that was brought up, that whole paragraph, was basically because she's never caught him in a lie about anything other than the finances. And it sounds like because of the finances, now that you've reminded me of the first email, it sounds like the finances could be an embarrassment thing. Like, right.
So I forgot to mention, he also took a pay cut, a massive pay cut.
Right.
So did she mention why he moved in? I feel like at some point she said at times she thinks.
And that one. Was it this one?
I'm pretty sure you might have skipped over the paragraph, but I'm pretty sure she said at times she thinks that he moved in just because he needed a place to stay after that pay cut. But then she reminds herself that that's not the reason. So. Yeah, no, it's the last paragraph. Yep. So we'll get into that. Okay, so I do think that he feels very vulnerable right now with his finances, and he's not able to provide the way he wants to as a man for his family, and that would make me depressed. If I thought I was failing as a man. Yeah, absolutely. It's hard. But a conversation, an honest conversation, can change the way that entire thing looks. So if our scenario is not our scenario, why are you smirking at me? Okay.
She said, for Christmas, my ex-husband bought me a very nice massager. I have been hitting the gym and muscles are sore. My youngest goes with me and now he understands no pain, no gain. And he asked his dad to get one for me. And I got up Christmas morning at about 4 a.m. and made sure the door was closed and that he was asleep. And I got back in bed and said, hey, he's out like a light and I will be quiet, trying to get some.
On Christmas Day too, like.
And she said his response was, if you went through all that trouble, you should have just used the gift you got and did it yourself. Livid does not even cover my emotions. Enraged was closer. I got up and have been in the shittiest mood ever since. It just triggered something. I hate that word. She said that. I hate it too, but I agree. And I have not been the same since. He has thanked me for being patient and kind and understanding, and I am. That comes with also seeing someone put forth the effort in changing. Also, it isn't a dig about the gift being bought by my ex. We all thought it was quite hilarious considering our past. This, I'm assuming it was an actual, like one of those massage guns and not like a vibrator.
I mean, I'd hope so because
it's for muscles,
the
right?
son asked the dad to get it. Like,
yeah. This whole scenario, like that comment, men, if you are one of those guys who are insecure about a toy or a tool, as I prefer to call it, you have never built anything in your entire life. And I know that you are not a crafty, hands-on person because if I have the ability to use a screw gun instead of a screwdriver, I'm going to use that shit. We have tools to get the job done.
right.
It's no different than in the bedroom. If I have something that's going to make my life easier, I'm using that shit. I don't understand that weak mentality. Well, it's competition. Well, then you fucking need to step your game up, buddy.
If you
because
think that a toy is competition, that really tells me how poor your skills are.
right, or how insecure with everything in life you are. I gotta be honest. If you got up in the middle of the night and came in the bedroom and were like, "Hey, they're sleeping.
It's 4 a.m. I'll be quiet,
Let's go,
bro." Like,
get the towel, bitch.
babe.
Like, let's do this. I don't. What's the problem? I don't care if there's 900 toys in there or. I don't, that whole concept, I understand her frustration and rage because that's never happened to me. But reading that, I'm like, come on, dude. What are you, 6?
Right.
All right. Maybe the last side note. I am trying to give you enough information. When we met, the first thing he said to me was, you are so much more beautiful than your pictures. There were flowers, there were brunches, dinners, little gifts. He even sent me a subscription to a tattoo magazine after we looked in all of our bookstores and could not find any, which tattoo magazines are a dying thing. And I'm kind of grateful for that. Figuring out my shoe size, favorite flowers, always willing to do the things when I asked, even if they weren't his thing, which is an important thing. I'll get back to that later. The caveat was he was making good money and had a sizable return from the sale of his house. He has gone through that. And there have been short remarks about needing to stop spending money from his savings. I get that. And believe me when I say I don't give two fucks about how much money he has. We've had so many talks about life and how we want to raise kids. He has none, but has the same thoughts and ways that I do. And that was important to me. The most important, to be clear, he has never asked for tattoos. This is kind of irrelevant. This more to the previous thing. One of the reasons he rarely eats out with us is because he can't pay. We have talked about this. I see the job he has done as a step in the direction he wants to go, and I have told him that in the back of my head. I have this thought about that he moved in because of his financial situation. That's what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. But I know that's not true. His mother would never allow him to go without a home or anything for that matter. He was living in a studio apartment. That was a studio apartment guy, right?
I believe so, yes.
And he was paying $650 because he was living in a studio apartment and then moved in with her and they agreed at $650 a month. Mm-hmm. I believe that was the case. And then he only paid her $250 over the...
I don't see anything about a studio apartment, but then again, I'm just scanning.
Okay. Well, if that's the email, then that was the case. He had his own place and moved in with her and they agreed to $650 a month.
Right. And he's only done $250 in the 3 months.
Yeah, that's the same one. Mm-hmm. So I really think that what needs to be had here is a conversation about finances. If he's blown through his savings, he's really not making money.
You are correct. It was a studio apartment.
So there's a strong possibility that he moved in for the aid. Not being intimate since January or 7 months or however long it's been, that is a concern as well.
Right. And then him making that snarky remark. Like,
right. She says the intimacy and the financial hurdles are the two things that I know need to be addressed. Mm-hmm. I just don't know if I have the fortitude to just quit on this man. I love him and he loves me, and surely overcoming this is a possibility. Thank you so much for your time. Inspiration seems as a pale word besides you two. If you truly love this man and you truly believe that he loves you too, then you guys just need to talk about the finances.
Right.
You have multiple business. You are obviously able to support him financially. And if he's going to be doing something in a year or two that levels him up and you can support him during that time frame, then offer that. It's not the end of the world. If it may make your money a little bit tighter, might make you have to work an extra day or pick up an extra tattoo on the weekend or whatever the case may be, but you have the ability to make this work. And if that's what needs to happen for you to be happy, then I would say do that. The intimacy is something that a different conversation altogether, because that is a very important part of a relationship for people.
It's part of the foundation sometimes.
Right. So in my opinion, even if you can't afford to support him financially for the next 2 years, realistically, I'm sure you can, reading what I've read. Do you want to go 2 years without playtime? Like that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Or without any type of intimacy, not just because dude was intimate as fuck in the beginning. Learned her shoe size, fucking sent her flowers. Like he played the game really hard, love bombed the shit out of her, and now it's all stopped.
Right.
And I understand not like I gotta be honest, even if I couldn't afford to pay for us to go out to eat and you could, before we got in there, I'd be like, babe, let me get the card. I don't want people to see that I can't pay. Because it's a me thing. Like
Right.
I want to be the one to pay. And if I can't do that and you're not willing to let me have the cash or the card to look like I'm paying, then I probably wouldn't go. But there's an easy solution to the problem. If you want to go out to eat and you can afford to pay for it and he can't, then just fucking offer to pay or give him the money. Be like, here's $100 you can pay for dinner. Here's my debit card. Whatever. There's a lot that goes into that. I understand that your only real issues in this entire situation now are the intimacy and the money. Money is not a big deal. It is. Money's a huge fucking deal, especially when you don't have it. Like when people are broke, the financial strain will destroy relationships.
Right.
But if you have the money, it's not that big of a deal to support or aid or whatever the case may be, because you got it like that. And if you can do that, just do it.
Until they start
Yeah.
until they start to feel like they're being taken advantage of.
Right. And that happens. And like, that's a genuine concern. Normally that's a concern on the man's part, not the woman's part, but it is becoming more common for men to mooch because they want to be mommied. They want to be taken care of. They don't want to work. People don't want to work anymore. People have gotten fucking lazy. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to do it in relationships. They don't want to do it in real life. Like they're just complacent.
Right.
I definitely think that you need to have a discussion about all of this. And I would lay out your expectations of him and be like, look, I'm willing to support you for the next 2 years. I have it financially. It's not going to set me back that much, especially if you're going to be bringing in 6 figures a year, assumption, whatever. You're going to be making a lot of money coming up. So all the money that I'm spending on you now in the next 2 years is going to be reinvested over our lifespan before we retire and into our retirement. If you want to spend life with this man that long, you're taking a gamble because you may, support him for 2 years and then he may dip out when he gets his job and he's got money, he's on his feet again. And even though his mom may make sure that he always has a place to live, at 40 years old, I promise you he doesn't want to live with his mother. If he's struggling to be honest with you about the finances, that's the last thing he wants, is to be viewed as a 40-year-old man living with his mom. This changes the course of the email for me a little bit. I really think that these are just really simple conversations that need to be had. And if he can't engage you in simple communication over these things, that's the bigger issue.
Right.
Guys, it's really not hard to just talk to your partner. You don't want to hurt people's feelings. I get that. Like, we don't want to ever let someone down. We don't want to be the villain. We don't want to be the bad guy. Everybody wants to look a certain way to their partner. But that little bit of, hey, I don't have this and I fucking need help. That's the whole point of being in a relationship with somebody, is to have somebody to have your back, to boost you up, to lift you, to be there for you when you fucking need someone, because otherwise there's no reason for relationships. You can have sex with anyone you want. Well, not anyone you want, but anybody that wants to have sex with you.
Right.
You guys can match and do that. You don't need to be in a relationship for that. You get companionship and intimacy and love, and like, that's the point of it. And you're supposed to lift each other up and help. So like, if you do love him and that's what you want, that's where your conversation needs to come from. Look, I love you. I want to fucking make this work. I think you're a great man. And even though you don't have any kids, you're being good with mine. Like, I obviously got enough money to hold you over until your job picks up and you get this promotion. And like, I can hold you down for 2 years. I give you 2 years. I would love for you to get a second job, maybe to help out a little bit more or whatever, if that's what you need to do. Maybe we can start a business and you can run that business instead of working for someone else. Like, we have a lot of options in life, but I need you to be upfront and 100 with me, because if you're not 100 with me, I can't trust you.
Right.
Have that conversation and then bring up the intimacy thing. Be like, look, you fucking showed me that you were a knight in shining armor in the beginning of this. You went above and beyond, and since then you've stopped. I need you to get your blood work done. Are you depressed? Are you on new meds? Am I not attractive to you anymore? What's going on that makes you not want to play around? Like, why are we having sex? Why aren't we being intimate? Does my breath stink? Like,
Right.
I got nothing else on that one.
Yeah, I think you hit all the key points.
I think that that's an easy fix. I think the hardest part of that is just having the conversation. I also think that it would be important to explain to him the way that your previous relationships went so that he has an understanding of some of your concerns, and maybe you opening up and being vulnerable with him will make him feel more comfortable doing the same thing in that scenario. And if you can't have these conversations with him when you guys are just sitting around, get in the car and go for a drive. Mm-hmm. You know, you're in Texas, there's mountains out there somewhere. Find some mountains in like a scenic route and just drive around and have conversations in the car. He doesn't have to make eye contact with you if he's driving. He's got to look at the road. So like, he can be a little bit more forthcoming because you're not judging him, looking him in the eye. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Being condescending with your facial expressions. Do you have anything else on that one?
No.
Okay. We have gotten a lot of questions about books. My rings came. Yes.
Your what?
My rings.
The rings.
Yeah. I just bought a bunch of stuff from Clocks and Colors. I'm excited. I get asked a lot about books and recommended reading and things that have helped me grow as a man and things that have helped me grow as a person. And I did a recommended reading list on TikTok. I think I'm done with that app.
TikTok?
Yeah. I'm probably going to continue making content for it to promote the podcast, but like I don't have it in me to argue with dumbass people anymore.
I don't have it in me to do anything on TikTok anymore.
But it's getting to the point where like, even though there's 900 people that will agree with me, that one idiot in the comments just completely turns me off to the post. And like, I'm not going to argue with you. You can say whatever you want. I don't give a shit. If you really feel that strongly about your position that you decided not to scroll and type out all those comments and engage with other people, do you, man? I don't give a shit enough about you or your opinion to even engage you in that. Especially in videos where I've made an opinion, it's my opinion. If I cared enough about you and we were having a conversation and I respected you as a person, I would hear your opinion.
Right.
But I'm not asking you for your opinion. I don't follow you and I don't give a fuck what you have to say. So scroll on, buddy. Like, I'm just done with this shit. I'm tired of the people that's on there and the keyboard warriors.
I have people who follow me just to hate on me. It's exhausting.
Yeah, it's pathetic. All right, so the recommended book list. This is like one half of that list. And I just want to talk about a couple of these books so that I can send people to this video and tell them, hey, at the 30-minute mark, we start talking about books. So I actually may just call this her hobbies / recommended reading so that people can see that there's a book list here. But so the first one is, the first two are by Ryan Michler, Michler, and it's Sovereignty and the Masculinity Manifesto. Both of these books talk about how to be a good man, how to be an honorable man, how to lead, protect, provide, that kind of thing. They're very, very short books. I read both of them in less than a day. The Sovereignty book I bought a hard copy of and actually highlighted shit in it because there's a lot of things in there that I truly enjoy, and I've referenced back to the 13 virtues and things like that. So this one I mentioned in a podcast that we recorded and decided not to use because of the topic matter. It's called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. This book is from a Holocaust survivor, and he talks about man's the psychology of man and how everybody just goes along, and there's a lot that goes into it, but he talks about his life as a Holocaust survivor. It's really a good book. The Way of Man by Jack Donovan. This is another short read. I bought the Audible version first before I bought the hard copy, and reading it, the dude is an idiot. Like, the way he talks, he sounds like he's trying to be more manly than he is. I don't need that, bro. Like, I don't care if you sound like Gilbert Godfrey. If you have something that is of value that you're saying, I'll hear it and I'll be able to digest it. So I ended up having to buy a hard copy of that to not hear his voice. Hal Moore on leadership. Winning, Win, Outgunned, and Outmanned by Harold G. Moore. If any of you have ever saw We Are Soldiers with Mel Gibson, where he is Harold Moore, that's Hal Moore. That's the one where Sam Elliott is in there, and the guy's like, "Good morning," and he's like, "Oh, how do you know what fucking kind of morning it is?" And like the whole movie, he's a hard ass, and at the very end, he looked down at that guy who's covered in blood and fucking dirt, and he's like, "This is a good morning," because they both survived an all-night firefight. That's a very good book on leadership. Hal Moore was a good man. Like, he was one of those men who had traditional values and loved his kids and loved his wife and loved God, and like you could tell. And Mel Gibson did a really good job playing his character, but I read that book twice because anyways, it was really good to read. I'm a big John Taffer fan. I said this earlier in the podcast. I believe that John Taffer is a highly intelligent individual, even though he likes to yell and be dramatic. He actually does that for effect, not for TV. He does it to get people's attention.
Right.
And that's in The Power of Conflict. And the second book he had is called Don't Bullshit Yourself. Both of those are very good. The Warrior Ethos by Stephen Pressfield, another good book. 12 Rules for Life and Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life by Jordan B. Peterson. If you guys have watched any of my content, I am a huge, huge fan of Jordan B. Peterson. I know that people think he's a white supremacist and a Nazi and all this nonsense that they've spewed about him, but dude he's actually like spoke out against all that shit.
Right.
He's fucking smart. Mm-hmm. I just want half of his intelligence. Here's an old one, On the Duty of Civil Disobedience by Henry David Thoreau. That's written in like the 1800s, so it's older English.
Right.
That was we're getting comments on TikTok or YouTube. I really need to turn those notifications off. This one I got from an author who is a friend of mine. His name is Stephen Bird. He writes post-apocalyptic, like survivalist books. It's called The Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis. This does have a religious undertone to it, but it is a good book. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I think this is something that everyone should read. Wild at Heart by John Eldridge. There was a sentence in that book that says, all men lead quiet lives of desperation. And I heard that one sentence, saw the quote, and bought the book so that I can read the entire book. He spent a lot of time doing outdoor stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, he's a survival guy. Or a hiker, camper, outdoorsman, I guess, and probably survivalist is probably not the right word to use there. All right. Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. I'm a big fan of Jocko. I've heard a lot of people say that he's a Hollywood SEAL and that, you know, he's made a name for himself and speaks a lot of bullshit. But when you read his books are very well articulated, and he lived a life the way that I'm trying to live mine. And that's with the extreme ownership and accountability. He has another one called The Dichotomy of Leadership. The Way of the Superior Man by David Deida, D-E-I-D-A. Then there is it's called Discriminations and Disparities by Thomas Sowell. Again, he's another person I'm a fan of. If I could make someone be president, mm-hmm. I would make him be president, even though he's firmly expressed he has no desire to ever do that. Thomas Sowell is a very, very intelligent man who's gone against the government, and he's done a lot of great things. He's a professor, very, very intelligent man. He also has another one called Black Rednecks and White Liberals. I believe that's the name of the book. That's another good one. Mm-hmm. A really another good one. I speak real well. Can you tell?
You're trying, yeah.
I am giving it my best.
I think you're doing good.
And Iron Will by Orison Swett Marden, S-W-E-T-T. And then The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. This is the first book of the first list of recommended reading that I have for people. All of those books have changed my life for the way that I viewed something in one way or another. And if you are a heavy reader or you like Audible and you're out of podcasts to listen to because we haven't put up any content, this is a great way to get through your cardio or cleaning or whatever the case may be. All of those books, I'm almost positive you can find all of those on Audible. So I don't have a whole lot to add to that. I just figured I would give the list so that people who wanted them could actually look and find them. Do you have anything that you want to add to the book list, or do you have anything you want to add, period? Because I'm out of breath. I've been just fucking running my mouth the whole time.
No, I don't.
It's hot in here.
It is hot in here.
All right, guys. Well, I guess that's it. We're, 40 minutes in, less than 40 minutes in. So we'll see you guys on the next one.
All right.